Casually Toxic Podcast is brought to you by Holy Cannoli Pepper Jolly. Now that's a spicy meatball. Hey everybody, this is your host Patrick Wenzel with Casually Toxic Podcast. We have here tonight, we have Matt Weiss, our co-host. We have Ian Monell, James Weisbeck, and Sirius Misogyny. We're here to talk about video games tonight. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's mighty fine there, Patrick.
That's a great idea.
We love it.
Pretty good.
I think Dragon Con was this past weekend, wasn't it?
It was, dude. And it was dope, man.
We did it a Big Willie style, man.
We had 14 bottles of moonshine. We drank all that shit.
I'm impressed, dude. I didn't know we were going to go through all of it, and we made it work.
We did. We did really make it. And on top of that, you had the clutch tequila, the clutch vodka to break it up. We can't.
I thought I made a mistake, dude. Like on Friday night, I was looking at that bottle of tequila, just like, we're never gonna do that shit. I will die before I drink it. And then I drank like half the bottle in like 15 minutes.
Yeah, that was the thing. I remember everyone was super nervous to take the first shot of tequila, and then like after that, I was just like taking a shot, whatever.
Yeah. I took the shot, and then I was like, well, this doesn't make me want to die. So then I just took like 5 more.
Great. Matt, did you go this weekend?
No, I didn't go. I went about 7 years in a row, and I loved it for a long time. But then I kind of saw what there was to see, and I don't know. I kind of want to go back and see what's changed, but I just haven't yet. So, did you guys end up going to the parade?
No. The parade is at like 11 in the morning. We were drinking until like 4.
Yep.
But also, like, Dragon Con's cool, but it's fun to just, like, kind of walk around and chill with your friends. The panels I'm not that huge on. It feels like a lot of the, like, the big names there are, like the B and C tier superhero shows, you know, like Arrow. And, sorry to all the Arrow fans out there who are going to be listening to this shit, but,
there isn't any, don't worry about it.
It's trash garbage. I'll tell you that without having seen a single episode. It's trash garbage. I think it airs on the CW. That's all you need to know. So like, it's fun to go do shit that is not the panels, honestly.
Yeah.
Dragon Con's dope. It's definitely worth going, but don't be there to see the panels. Go there.
For those who don't know, what's like a general overview of Dragon Con?
It is the as they'll tell you at every chance they get, the largest like con. I don't know if you want to call it like a Comic Con or whatever, but in the Southeast, it's like the second biggest one after San Diego Comic Con, which I guess makes it bigger than New York Comic Con, but maybe they're using their, like, you know, wordplay to be like, well, we technically New York Comic Cons or whatever con, so, you know, it doesn't compete with Dragon Con.
It's a different kind of con.
Yeah, but it's just like you take place over like about like a 4 square block radius in the middle of downtown Atlanta, and they suspend the open container laws, so you just walk around everywhere just getting fucking smashed in like 90-degree heat because it's the end of August in Georgia.
Yeah, but then you hit up the hotels, man, get that air conditioning.
Yeah, and then the sun goes down and all the children go home. Like, I'm pretty
sure I heard Matt complaining about Dragon not too long ago, saying that it's turned into something that was like all just super nerds. It's become more of a popular thing.
It used to be
bitching about it.
It used to be more of a thing where it was like maybe 14, 20,000 people, like all kind of with their own kind of social quirks, all having kind of outlying passions and hobbies. And they got together and they celebrated that together. And then over the past few years, I noticed that more and more people were going, and it's very much a drinking atmosphere now, whereas before it felt more like a safe place, I guess, for people that are into more unusual things. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily like a negative thing now. It's just changed. I mean, it's just a inherent fact of it becoming more mainstream, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it still feels like a safe point for, you know, people that don't go out as often, or people that, you know, have different interests, a lot of quirky interests, to come together, because you go there and you see people that honestly probably never leave their house and they're still out there doing their thing, having a good time. And like, you see these guys that are like you see these guys that never do shit, and then look at them and they're like, they're having the fucking time of their life. They're all hammered, which is, you know, obviously.
And I'm sure there's still places in Dragon Con where that's like especially true, but it's also harder for those people when there is like 10,000 drunk people running around screaming at each other. if that makes
that's,
sense.
That's like in certain areas, man. Like if you're wandering through like the main Marriott like hotel at night, then yeah, it's going to be a lot of drunk ass people, man. But there's like, I know we went to like a Tokyo arcade thing, and there was a ton of people just chilling out playing board games, and that was cool. Playing arcade machines. I think it's just like if you're wandering around through the city at night, then yeah, it is more like a drinking kind of thing. But even then, like I feel like it's way easier to do some shit because it's like everyone there is a nerd. You know, you don't have to be like, you don't have to feel weird about the fact that, you know, you're a nerd. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, like, we personally have friends who are like, you know, don't really go out that often, but everyone goes out for Dragon Con.
Yeah.
So it's like their one time to just get, like, you know, just let it all out and do whatever they want to do. But I think, like, as also a function of, like, Dragon Con becoming more popular, it's just, like, nerd culture in general becoming more popular.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, oh, well, I watched Harry Potter, so I'm a nerd now. And it's like, I don't know about that. But then there's a lot of those people who are there who are just like, I'm here just because of Arrow, and Arrow is my thing. And not to, like, shit on those people, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, and they go hang out with all their other Arrow nerds. But
we can't get you off the Arrow train, can we?
It's a horrible
you don't understand. Arrow is
Arrow
an
hates
institution.
real.
No, dude, it's like an institution now. I don't know where it came from. I was like, how is this show on the CW like a big deal? I can't.
So is the Flash like included in this like criticism? Because at a certain point, I mean, on CW you have Legends of Tomorrow, The Flash, and Arrow.
I've watched most of them. I've watched 2 seasons of The Arrow before I realized how bad of a show it was. And like, I think even people that watch the show know that it's like really gone downhill. I think The Flash is kind of a different vein because The Arrow is all about like, I don't want to say it's a soap opera, but it kind of plays it like that. And
drama.
Yeah, there's a lot of like it's not like a superhero show where it's like there's a big bad guy.
Yeah, it's like interpersonal drama and not like moral dilemmas and stuff.
Well, The Flash, I've only seen the season 1 of The Flash, but I think it's a little different in the fact that it maybe forces or focuses a little bit more so on the superhero aspect and whatnot. I mean, it's still cheesy, right? It's still a TV superhero show, so there's inherent cheese with that. But I
also,
definitely
the Flash is just a cooler superhero. He's got a better superpower, and that's just dope.
Yeah, I mean, Arrow's only power is he just shoots a bow, right? Like that's
and like
he was alone on an island.
Hey, don't take that away from him, bro. ADCs are really important. Let's fuck off from the that's Dragon. It's a great time, as you can tell. Everybody, Arrow's going to be there. It's it's fantastic. But take this negative energy and funnel it right into the Half-Life 2 Episode 3 fucker.
Okay.
Let's have you guys heard about this?
Yeah. So basically, what happened was one of the writers for Half-Life released basically what his vision of the story would have been for Half-Life 2 Episode 3. And so that doesn't mean this is exactly what would have happened, right? It could be different, but it kind of got people thinking, is this really the end? You know, this guy released basically what could have very well been the story of Half-Life. And so people were wondering, is this the end of Half-Life? You know, is Valve officially giving up? I know that Dota 2 got like review bombed on Steam because people were really upset. But then there's this other narrative that started to come along where, you know, it was the fact that, you know, hey, this guy may have not, you know, been this may have not really been the story. He left some stuff out because he knew that Valve was still interested in some of the storylines. Like, I know he was interested in, like, if you read the story, you guys know who the G-Man is?
I don't know shit about
course.
Half-Life. I've never played it.
Okay.
Oh, that's a sin.
I did play Half-Life and Battle in
Basically, the G-Man is like this weirdly mysterious dude in the suit that just shows up, like, seemingly out of space and time and will, like, help out Gordon or whatever. But basically, in the end of this, in the end of the story, he takes Alex away from, like, a doomed situation. Alex is the girl character.
Yeah. Was this the end of episode 2 you're talking about?
No. This is what the guy was writing about. Was he? Yeah, the episode.
Okay.
3, like,
okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So he took Alex away, and I know he was saying, like, people asked him, you know, why did the G-Man take Alex away and not Gordon Freeman? Because throughout the entire series, it's Freeman that's, like, really the main character.
Yeah.
And he was saying he doesn't want to go into it because he knows Valve is still pursuing that storyline possibly. So I think there's definitely a plausible thought of, hey, this is really the end of Half-Life. You know, this guy's released his story, but I honestly think it's not. It's just this guy's no longer working on it, and he wanted to kind of release what he thought of the story before it went through any peer review at all.
So just kind of like a little accident leak, but not anything.
It wasn't even an accident. He made a post about it on his website. He did this on purpose. But people were saying, did he go to Valve? Like, because initially, everybody thought that it was like this man did it without Valve's permission, and people are now thinking, hey, he probably got Valve's permission because he was talking about Alex and her relationship to the G-Man and what have you.
Well, if he was one of the big writers on the project, I mean, he kind of has a right to talk about that in a sense, even though it may not be like what it would be.
Well, it's down to like the legal stuff. I did a little bit of reading about it, and it's basically like the guy's NDA's non-disclosure agreement came up, and it's basically Valve being like, well, you can put this out. So what Ian kind of mentioned is like, well, Valve's still pursuing some story things. What I'm really interested in is if you guys actually think that Episode 3 will come out or whatever, like something in the Half-Life universe, that follows the storyline, is that ever going to come out? Because it's been so long. To me, it's
absolutely.
like analogous to like the Detox thing in the hip hop community, where it's like, look out for Detox, and it's been like 15 years. It's where's Detox, man? Dr. Dre at least had the good decency to come out and be like, look, I made it, but it was trash, and I'm not going to put it out.
I don't think we're going to see Half-Life 2 Episode 3, at least from Valve. I mean, I can't also see another studio working on it, but the problem with Valve right now is they've just grown from a game development company to they are basically now a platform company. Like, they are Steam to an extent, and also byproduct of that, Dota. But all their money is coming from Steam and Dota, and they don't have much of an incentive other than fan outcry to release another game.
Yeah,
and
they're
also,
a company and they just want to make money.
But at the end of the day, it's like, if you're a company, right, and Half-Life was a gigantic success, it would be stupid, like, taking away how much fans want it. It would be dumb not to say, hey, this was a huge success, and then just drop it.
Well,
like, that's not how they're going to work.
The other side to that, though, is like Half-Life 1 and 2 both made huge revolutions in gaming. Like, Half-Life 1 was the first like linear kind of like story-based experience, and Half-Life 2 was right when DirectX came out. It was graphically ahead of other games. It was DirectX 9, I think. It's when shaders were first introduced. Anyway, it was the first physics-based system. Both Half-Lives made giant revolutions. They were revolutionary.
Yeah, because
at the time.
Half-Life.
And that idea, they need another idea like that for another Half-Life, basically. And aside from like maybe VR, there's really no steps like that they can make for the next one.
Yeah, they had the physics little lasers that you could able to like hold things up in the air and throw them around, kind of like what Gary's mod has today.
And that was completely, the whole source engine and everything was completely fresh in 2004. And they need another idea like that for it to even get moving. And go ahead.
People were talking about it being VR. Like, that was supposedly the main thing, was people were saying, hey, it's probably going to be a VR thing. So maybe Valve is like, maybe they had something, and then VR started coming in, and they're like, all right, we don't want to do this. We want to revolutionize, so we're going to scrap this, go with VR. And I don't think VR is at the point now where,
exactly.
Granted, I haven't played a ton of VR, so I could be 100% wrong. But I feel like VR is at the point now where it's like, is it solid enough to be like, hey, that's a good game just by game standards, not like by VR standards?
Right, yeah. People will just play something that is honestly shit, but it's got VR support, so it's like, okay, I'm going to buy it and give it a try because it's one of the only things I can actually play on VR. So VR is kind of, I feel like VR needs to come along like a bit further along in its development,
become more ubiquitous, because like if they make it for VR, then it's only for people who have like $800 rigs,
right? Sure. And then another $800 for the VR.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to release it now, right, is just like a stealth drop on Steam. Like, no announcement, no trailers. Mm-hmm. They can just release it on Steam. Like, it could just pop on Steam in a week. I think at this point, that's even the only way to release it, with just how like Half-Life 3 memes and jokes are.
Mm-hmm. Well, another thing with like the why they would not put it out, that you're talking about, all the fans are clamoring for it, is that if it comes out and it's not up to fan expectation, which like, if you could argue that it will never be, because it's like impossibly high right now, that the game will come out, fans will be disappointed. You can now refund games immediately after you get fucking sick of it, and like they'll just take this huge hit to their reputation, to people seeing Valve as like no longer a game developer. They just put patches out for Dota and they run Steam now. You know, they don't make games anymore. Because people also talk about like, you know, where's Left 4 Dead 3 at and other stuff like that. And it's just like you have to look at like the risk to reward, if it's like a necessary risk to take, because Valve is already making money
It's not.
hand over fist. Okay, but like yeah, it's making money like hand over fist, that they gotta worry about, you know, is it worth putting in the time that it would take? Because like you're saying, if they want to make it VR, that's like, I don't know, a very like early estimate, like 4 or 5 years in the future, and that's at the earliest, you know.
Yeah, and financials aside, it's more them risking tarnishing their name, which they just can't afford to do. Just like Blizzard. Like, Blizzard can't afford to release anything that would tarnish their name, which is why you see things get canceled like Titan and then reformed into Overwatch.
So that's what I'm saying, or at least personally, that's why I think if they release Half-Life, it's not going to suck, because that's Valve, and they're not going to release a bad game. They're like Blizzard in the fact that they're not afraid to scrap something if it's just not working. And I mean, Blizzard, specifically with HOTS, right? Everyone said, hey, man, you're releasing this MOBA way too late into the craze. It's not going to happen. It's not going to get popular. And I think it's like, it's either number 3, like right below or right above Smite, or like Smite's number 3 and it's number 4 or something. But I mean, like, it's Blizzard and it's Valve. Like, there's no way they're going to release a bad game. Or if it is a bad game, it's not going to stay bad.
Yeah, and for all we know, there's already been 4 versions of Half-Life 3.
Oh, there absolutely have.
Yeah,
There's
I'm
definitely
sure
been versions of Half-Life that already gone in the trash.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Blizzard, they teamed up with, which Activision just released Destiny 2, right?
Yeah, Activision actually owns Blizzard, I think.
Yes, Activision Blizzard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're just putting out Destiny through the like Blizzard client platform, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But it came out
today, right?
A couple of days ago, or maybe today.
Today, yeah.
It came out today.
Yeah. Like the official release was today, but like early release was yesterday for console. And there's some good news. Have you guys been hearing about what's happened since it's come out?
I just heard
no, I haven't heard anything.
I don't know if it's like, just, nerds freaking out over the minutia, but as they're apt to do. But so the big thing going on right now is, full disclosure, I did not play Destiny 1 at all, not even for a minute. So there's these things called shaders, which are apparently just like what they sound like, shaders, like color skins for your guns and armor and shit. And in the previous game, you used to find them and like stockpile them and like swap them out all the time. So if you wanted to be like, oh, well, I've got this cool like purple set or whatever, leopard print, I don't know. That was a thing. But now in this new one, which I'm sure Activision had a hand in saying this, is that they got to put microtransactions in the game. And I'm sure to the guys at the development team behind Bungie were like, well, this is one of the least invasive ways we can do it. You can now buy like a kind of loot box that gives you shaders. You can also find the shaders normally, but now they are one-time uses. And the way that a function of the game, it's like a gearing up RPG like Diablo. So it's like, oh, well, I found this dope gun, I'll put my favorite shader on it, and then 5 minutes later you find a better gun and you used your shader. And so they're just trying to get you to buy these loot boxes.
Yeah,
which,
it's going to be an endless cycle, fucking BDO style.
So,
but at the same time, it's just a shader, it doesn't make you better at the game.
When are they going to release those value packs?
Also, so in Destiny, or at least in Destiny 1, and I know this holds true for Destiny 2 as well, there are exotic, like legendary weapons, they're called exotics, that are in-game weapons in Destiny. And once you get them, I don't think that there's random rolls on the damage they do or anything. So once you get it, it's a set weapon, and you're going to be using it for a while. So I could just see those shares being an in-game kind of thing, where you apply it to your in-game weapon, and then you don't have to worry about that. But I could see where maybe people that didn't know that would, or haven't played Destiny before, would hop on and play and then apply it to a weapon and be like, oh, why did I do this?
Yeah,
like I said, I don't know if it's like really a big deal or not, if it's just people looking for something to complain about like the big new game. Because we did play a little bit of the beta. I had a lot of fun with it. It really scratched that Halo itch that I've been missing since I moved over from console to PC. Just like the polish on it, like you guys were talking about, that Blizzard won't make a bad game. I know this is, Bungie and Activision, but like it just has like a level of polish that like you don't find in every game, especially even like AAA games now. It's like it feels right. It feels tight. The controls are good. I like the mechanics of it. It has a like a higher time to kill, which is something that I really like in shooters, because like playing games like Call of Duty or Battlefield, like not it's just a personal preference to me, but like with such a low time to kill, 1 to 2 bullets kills you. It's like positioning is super important. But in a game like Halo or Destiny with a higher time to kill, where you have like a shield and it takes like 5, 6, 7 shots to kill, depending on what gun you're using, or if you hit headshots, it feels like there's like a bigger chance for me to outplay somebody who gets the drop on me. So if my positioning and map awareness isn't that good, but my like 1v1 dueling skills are good, I can still turn that around.
Dude, that's why I loved Halo, man. Halo 3 back in middle school was probably one of the only shooters I've ever really gotten into, because you have the ability in that game to, okay, you're right, like some of us aren't good at map awareness, some of us aren't good at like, just the overall thinking, a strategic aspect of it. Like I'm more of a reaction, like, 1v1 situation, straight up reaction time. And in Halo, man, footwork, just your jumping, like everything about the duels and like it was, and you didn't, like you said, you didn't die in 5 seconds. So you actually had a chance to fight back, and you could even turn around on someone, with the BR, just fucking dunk them, or you just had that chance. Like I like the longer battle. Like that's why I think I'm gonna play Destiny.
Yeah.
And that higher time to kill really stems from like older arena shooters like Quake and stuff like that. That's how those games used to be. And I don't think it was really till Counter-Strike came on the scene that people are like, oh, we can have a higher time to kill. And Counter-Strike does in such a way where like positioning does matter, but you can fight back because aiming is so difficult and recoil is such a real thing. But then other games like Call of Duty started to adapt that, and where there wasn't the difficulty to shooting and aiming. And I agree with you where I don't really enjoy those type of games as much.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is definitely a different kind of game, and there is definitely something to be said about the whole, hey, if somebody gets a drop on me, I can 100% turn it around. And I feel like, especially with Overwatch, that maybe there's like going to be a resurgence of more like longer time to kill kind of games, I mean, the hero shooter is like the next MOBA, right?
Well, that's what I kind of like about not Overwatch, is Destiny as opposed to Overwatch, is that Destiny, I wouldn't call it a hero shooter, because like you do have the class-based abilities, right? But that's not like the focus of the game. It's still the gunplay, Like you can be trash at shooters and still play, like Junkrat and do well in Overwatch, like I did when I was playing on that fucking laptop, getting like 10 to 15 frames a second. I can still do well on Junkrat.
Just aim the general area.
You can still play Reinhardt and put your shield up and walk, which is like nothing wrong with that. That's just a different kind of game and not what I'm looking for in a shooter.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is
compare
ability
to Overwatch. I was just saying like the whole time to kill thing.
Yeah.
Hey, Destiny 2 pay to win though.
Wait, why is it pay to win?
Cosmetics?
Because that's, I think it's just people overreacting. It's people freaking out.
So this guy comes from BDO, and he's trying to say that
pay to win.
Destiny is pay to win.
Hey,
we all know that BDO is the pay to win fashion.
BDO, for all you people out there that have lives, is Black Desert Online,
a Korean MMO.
Right, which goes without saying it's going to be pay to win.
Well, we'll enjoy that topic a little later. Don't worry about that.
Hey, I read today though that there's like a microtransaction that gives you some like buffs on your gear for like CDR and stuff, but they're blue items. So when you get to the exotic point of the game, it'll like disappear.
Yeah,
but
that's
like
what I heard.
mid game, you can like level up faster or some shit.
Well, leveling up is fine, but my other question was: do these loot boxes contain shaders? But do they contain anything else that would potentially give you an advantage?
I mean, I haven't read a ton about it, but I'm what I'm gathering is no. I think it's mostly or just shaders.
Yeah, there might be other like cosmetic stuff. But...
Yeah, and I mean, like, it sucks that we're in a not society, but like a gaming thing now where it's like. That's good. Is there's microtransactions, but it's just cosmetics, right? That really kind of sucks. But honestly, I feel like now, especially because like games have developed past a point where I feel like they should be $60. Like they should be I think more than that. And companies need these microtransactions to like get more games out the door or like invest more in a game. I'm honestly fine with the cosmetics as long as they don't like affect like in-game performance. You know, Path of Exile is like a fantastic game that like it was praised so heavily when it came out as this free-to-play, basically well regarded as like better than Diablo 3 at the time. Better like
Mhm.
and
Yeah, when the auction house was
microtransaction
out.
was cosmetics. You know, it was just
Mhm.
like, hey, you want your head to look like it's on fire? Boom, give us.
It felt more like what Diablo 2 or Diablo 3 should have been. Exactly. Like it had that Diablo 2 like aesthetic and feel that we all loved from Diablo 2. Like honestly, when I got Diablo 3, I was a little bit disappointed because it just felt so cartoony. It had that new Blizzard look to it rather than what we were all used to with the nostalgia. But yeah, it just.
So with Diablo 3, like the Diablo 3 versus Path of Exile argument that kind of goes on and on forever, is like Diablo 3 was made, Blizzard makes games to appeal to a wider audience, and that was the purpose of Diablo 3. And Diablo 3 is fine as an arcade action RPG, whereas Path of Exile is specifically designed for the Diablo 2 hardcore, like, they want complexity in their game. It's really two different audiences, so I think the entire Diablo 3 versus Path of Exile argument kind of breaks down.
Yeah, I mean, it's the internet, so it's like people are going to compare Overwatch and Call of Duty, you know, and say Overwatch is better when it's two different games. I 100% agree with you. I still go back and like, while I know Path of Exile is, you know, maybe the deeper game, maybe the more rewarding game when you've like gotten that far into it, is if I just want to run around and kill a whole bunch of skeletons, you know, as a barbarian or whatever, I'm gonna launch up Diablo 3 because Blizzard has this level of polish throughout every game that's just incredible. Like they just know how to like make things feel fantastic to do.
Right, like HOTS is a like overall not a very deep game, but God, like Blizzard makes it so like it's fun. It's fun for anybody to play, even if you come from League, Dota, whatever. You may not get into it and play it for 500,000 hours and become a pro, but you will play the game and you just like have a great time. And that's why we got into HOTS. We had our we have different months where we play everything, but we got into HOTS for probably a solid month, would you guys say? Like we were playing it.
It was a long time for us.
Right, for us, our group. I have other friends that talk to me. They're like, "Oh, I don't want to buy this game because I know your friend group just bails on every game in like a week." But like,
it is known.
Right, it is known. But we like that game actually held our attention for a while, just purely because it's fun and it's a good co-op game. And
well,
just
I think it also has a good system of like steady stream of unlocks. I never felt like, oh, I can't get this hero yet, I can't afford him. Like, they just gave you so many coins and everything, all the unlocks you could ever want, to give you all this, like, even out of the loot boxes that you get at every level. Like, I didn't feel like the RNG was too bad, where it's like, well, you're never going to get a fucking legendary purple shit, you know? Like, it felt like the chances of getting that was always higher. But I feel like Blizzard, we're talking about that level of polish, I, like, feel a lot of similarities between, like, Blizzard and Nintendo, where it's like, Nintendo will make a game like the new Mario and Rabbids shit, where it's like, oh, well, you know, we already have these turn-based things with like XCOM and I guess like Banner Saga, if you're into that shit, it's like the newer shit that's coming out now. And it's like, oh, well, Nintendo's going to do this and it's going to be kind of cutesy and aimed at kids. But they put out this thing and it has their own spin on it, and it's like a massive success. It's got like 9s and 10s across the board. And, you know, I don't know how well it's selling yet and where we can see those numbers yet, but you know, it looks like a good entry into like a genre that, you know, people were not clamoring for, like, you know, we need more turn-based, you know, strategy games. But it looks like it's doing really well. And that's what, like, I feel like Blizzard is able to do with a game like Heroes of the Storm, where it's like, you know, you have League and you have Dota, and it's like hard and harder. And there's like a hole to fill. And it did take them, you know, HOTS was like not popping off for the first however long it was until 2.0, like a year or two, you know. But I think they changed directors and like community managers, and they're doing so well now that you see it even in League, that they're biting from HOTS now, that they're saying, oh, well, we're gonna take off the level cap and that's gonna go all the way up, and we're gonna even just in like the presentation, right, like everybody knows now like Jeff Kaplan. I don't really play Overwatch like that, but everybody knows Jeff in the videos that he does. And like even the format, the way he talks to the community, we're bringing you this new thing, blah blah blah. Then now League is doing that, and that shit never would have happened before Blizzard is like pushing them to do this.
Yeah, 100%. Competition is always good. It's going to make games better across the board, and it's never like even though the mobile market was incredibly saturated,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like right now we have a great balance with, you want a third person game, there's Paragon, there's Smite, you want a standard 2D, there's League and Dota, you want a more casual, not 2D, but you know what I mean, top down. You want a more casual top down, there's HOTS,
Paragon's in a little trouble. I just recently read that their director just got fired or quit or left,
Oh, wow.
whatever terminology you want to use as of today. So we'll see what happens to Paragon. But people, I don't pretend to be an industry insider, but people in the comments were saying that a lot of bad things are happening over at Epic Games, and that a lot of the people who made it great are not there anymore. So don't expect big things coming out of there for a little while.
Well, I mean, you have Cliff Bleszinski left Epic Games. They're currently working on Unreal Tournament 4, which people don't even know exists. I mean, it's completely free to play. You can go download the new Unreal Tournament right now, but no one cares anymore. And then they also did Fortnite recently. They launched that into early access, and that's not getting much traction either. They just don't have a lot of big titles behind them anymore.
I think they're just hanging on off the rights of the Unreal Engine.
Yeah, I mean, I really feel like the problem with that Fortnite game was, man, I don't know about you guys, but I remember seeing it in a magazine like years ago.
Yes.
And it was just like,
I never heard of this shit.
I completely forgot about it, and now they announced it. Now it's a game, but then they release it in early access. Like, I heard that on the PlayStation Network, like on the PlayStation Store. Nowhere, like, you can buy the game, and nowhere does it say early access.
Yes, it's completely hidden on PSN, whether it's early access, but basically it's a kind of tower defense building game. You're building up a base and defenses while waves of enemies are coming at you with kind of a cartoony style. This game was previewed years and years ago, and it kind of became a running joke whether or not it would ever come out, like the mystery that is Fortnite. And then it came out early access, and no one cares.
Man, I think the gaming world needs more games like that. There's pretty much no tower defense games that are actually, other than like Bloons, all the shitty apps. And,
well, that's what I was going to say. The phone market killed a lot.
But nobody's made a real, well done version. You guys remember that? What was that one? It was a Dungeon Defenders, I think it was.
A lot of people like that.
That was a great one.
That was a really good one, but it's obviously dead now, and I don't think it has much of a player base. But I think that the market is missing something like that, where a really well polished, enjoyable, even something with a little layer of depth that would just fill the market, that little hole in the market. Because right now everything else is saturated.
You mean specifically for a tower defense game? I don't know how many mechanics you're talking about right now, but so the StarCraft remastered shit just came out, and on StarCraft 2, you can play custom game modes where people have tower defense that I used to do so much back in the day as a kid playing tower defense on StarCraft Brood War. But you're talking about people getting on their computer to play tower defense style games,
Yeah.
And the people who want to play tower defense are either playing it on their iPad or phone, or they're not coming to their computer. And then us who are already playing on the PC, it's why would I pay for a tower defense game? I'll just play a custom game on StarCraft. Or whatever RTS you want to play that has custom games like that.
Speaking of StarCraft, isn't StarCraft 2 50% off right now for what is it, Legacy of the Void?
Yeah,
or is it Part of the Swarm?
So it includes Wings of Liberty, whatever the middle one was. And
no, so the way it works is if you want to play the campaigns, you got to buy Wings of Liberty, Part of the Swarm, and Legacy of the Void. But if you just want to play the most updated multiplayer, you can not own base StarCraft 2 and just buy Legacy of the Void, and you can play the multiplayer just like everybody else.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's
you
really
don't
nice.
need the previous ones. You can just get the newest Legacy of the Void and play the multiplayer online. You can also play the campaign for Legacy of the Void if you want to just play the campaign. You're not too concerned with the story, or you just want to watch YouTube videos. I have definitely spent more time than I care to admit watching people who've cut together all the fucking cinematics and dialogue, and I'll just watch that instead of playing Heart of the Swarm, because I the story has kind of gone to shit, but I still enjoy it. I still enjoy the characters and that.
It's not as bad as WoW Story, where Thrall's just everything.
So what were they thinking when they did this? I mean, they just released StarCraft Remastered, and it kind of seemed like a possible esports scene could have started growing back for that, but then they cut StarCraft 2 in half. Are they trying to split the community? Do they just not care anymore?
Somebody made a good point in Discord earlier. I think it was Sirius that said, who was it that said in our Discord, they were like, they wanted everybody to go
That
check
was
out
me.
Brood War. It was you. You said they want to check out Brood War, and then they want so that they'll realize that the controls were shit, and they actually have like a new polished game out that you can play, and actually, it feels a whole lot better.
I mean, yeah, did they just immediately see people falling off StarCraft 1 and be like, well, now that StarCraft's on their, let's try to get them back in StarCraft 2? I don't really understand it.
I think that's definitely part of it, because I mean, like, Remastered had a lot of hype behind it when they announced it, and I don't know if it's necessarily going to be like the resurgence of the RTS like Brood War, because like I think the mobile market has definitely pretty much killed it. I could be wrong.
Well, you never know. People could be getting kind of tired of it, and I feel like I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out of my ass. I'm probably wrong, but it's just like how much,
that's what this whole podcast is.
Yeah, it's just like how much growth are like those scenes having? Like how many new people are
They
just
are.
like, try out League?
Ian's right. StarCraft 2 esports scene was huge, and I followed it for a few years, and then as soon as League of Legends hitting and buzz, it just died.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think also I remember when StarCraft 2 came out because I was so hyped on it, and I was keeping up with the pro scene. What happened there was, well, at least according to the community, was that Blizzard was just like too slow to respond to problems with the meta that people didn't like. And it wasn't friendly enough to new players to get them into it. People who like maybe didn't play Brood War or OG StarCraft, and they didn't have like the things in place to like teach new players because it's such a hard game. It's like up there with like the hardest like genre of games with like fighting.
I
games
play like
and MOBAs,
6 matches and I want to fucking kill myself.
Yeah, like an
It's
instant
just
brain
so
break in
hard.
half, dude.
It is
crazy.
draining.
With fighting games, it's also like if you play League of Legends or Dota 2 or HOTS or whatever, it's like, hey, I lost because my bot lane sucks or whatever, or that guy sucks. But in StarCraft and fighting games,
it's only you to blame.
Yeah, exactly. You have to have this mental fortitude where you get smashed and you go, I lost because that guy just beat me. You know what I mean? Like, that guy was pathetic.
It's all
Ian,
on
do
you.
you have that mentality?
Absolutely not. But I mean, like, there's definitely it's not to say that there's instances where you can lose just from like luck, right? Because luck's in everything. But I think it's way harder to like play a lot of games of StarCraft 2 than it is to play a lot of games of say like Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah, when
Yeah,
100% of the responsibility is on you, it is grueling. I remember I was doing diamond matches and stuff. After 30 minutes, I just felt completely drained when I lost. And when I won, I didn't even feel accomplished. I was just like, well, time
Yeah,
to
because
do
then
another.
it takes you to your like fucking screen, and you see the one win. This is like plus 17 MMR, and then 4 losses behind it. It's like minus 20 every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like,
That
all right,
reminds me
dude.
of a really great time that I had the other day playing against this guy Ian here. We played a fucking hour and a half match, and he says it was me turtling, but I felt like I almost beat him.
I mean,
But
here's the thing, right? We both suck, right? And there's a lot of things that when you get into the game, like naturally you can say, "Hey, that guy has destroyed my whole minion line," right? Boom, the game's over. But to us, the newer StarCraft players, right? We're just like, maybe I can ferret away somewhere else, and maybe I can make another base, and I can come back, right? So it artificially draws out the game length, right?
right, that's totally the way I felt. I was like, dude, like there's got to be something I can do. I was sitting there for probably 30 minutes, like coming up with plays, like trying to come up with something. I was shut down, obviously, looking back at it. But I was like, I have to beat this asshole, first of all.
Yeah,
and second
there
of
was
all,
definitely one time though when you like at some point in the game where you're just like, all right, now I'm just gonna fuck with this guy. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
there wasn't in that game. Honestly, I was trying to wait until I realized I was like, because we all know my brain works a little slower than most. So I was like, what could I do? Like I lowered my APNs probably like 20 because I was just sitting there thinking, and I finally came up to the conclusion. I was like, Ian's really quiet right now. I think he's mad. So that must mean that I'm doing something wrong.
It's not mad in the sense of like, how dare you try and win this video game? It's mad in like, yo, this average game length should be like 25 minutes, and we're at it was like an hour and 30 minutes of just StarCraft Brood War where we already suck, right? And I don't know about you guys, but it's like as soon as we get past like 10 minutes and I'm off the one base, my macro goes to garbage, right? Like trying to juggle not only a massive army and then macro and then micro your army is just impossible. So it's this hour and 30 long game of just constant. Oh, I forgot to do this. Oh, I forgot to do that. Oh,
Yeah,
suck
dude. I was
here,
about to
you know?
say, I felt the same. Like, I think it was like 45 minutes in the game. I was like, I can't focus on this anymore. Like, I have like 4 bases. I don't know what to do in each. I don't know how to win this game because like I still don't know. Like, I don't know Zerg units that well. Like, I don't know what's gonna counter what. I don't know shit. So I was sitting there. I was like, there's got to be something I can do. I don't know what it is. I have like 80 just STVs sitting in my main base still from the original fucking minerals that they've already collected that are gone. I'm like, where should I put these guys? I just like didn't know what to do, and I was like, wow, I'm losing my focus. Like, pretty lame. But the
answer is if you do actually start caring about getting better at StarCraft is to just start Googling build orders and memorizing build orders, and it's a grueling process.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely rough, but I also think StarCraft is one of the most rewarding games when you do win, and it's because you just outsmarted the other guy. You do something better than him. You know exactly what counters what, and like you feel like you won because you earned it.
Yeah, I will say winning in that game is overly rewarding. Like you feel like a smarter human being. Like you've dominated somebody else's life.
Yeah,
and they're probably just as mad as you would be if you lost. So it
there's some
good.
exceptions here. I mean, if you're a Terran and you mass invisible banshees, you're a scumbag. I mean, that's how it is.
You hear that?
It's not my
That's
opinion.
inaccurate.
That's facts. Many people have gone over this. There's been multiple forum posts. I don't want to say Obama said it, but a high up figure in the White House was talking trash about it.
I think I remember that speech.
Yeah, he word for word said, Terran is scumbags. If you cloak banshees, leave,
Wait, hold on, Ian. We're not to your bitching minute yet. Like we have a whole section dedicated to Ian just complaining later. He's gonna give you guys the ride of a lifetime, just complaining, bitching. Like that's what he does. You guys are gonna love it. Don't worry.
Oh man. But moving off StarCraft, Monster Hunter World is coming out.
Yeah, it is.
When is it coming out?
I can't even contain myself. I'm so excited.
Is there an announced
2018.
2018. The announced
early
date
2018.
That
early.
is good news. That is.
I'll
good
take
news.
early 2018.
Crazy, dude. I mean, going from like the crappy, I want to call them crappy, but just
handheld.
It's the fucking Nintendo DS resolution. It's like
Yeah.
something retarded, like 133 and something else.
And I mean, like that was never like a part of the game that I really didn't like because the game is fantastic.
Oh,
you
it's so
deal with
fun.
it.
Yeah, it's just like going now to seemingly a game that people complain that maybe it's westernized, but it's not. Every complaint so far has been like it's not westernized at all. And it just has like these amazing graphics. And it's
I can't
Everything
wait.
I've heard is it's just good old Monster Hunter, which is really exciting. It's going to be their one big shot at like penetrating a Western market in the way they haven't before.
Poor Dauntless, man. Dauntless is just gonna get cream pied.
Well, Dauntless is going to come out. Dauntless is another Monster Hunter-esque game, and it's in early access right now. I think you can buy into it. It's a more cartoony, lightweight version, but that's coming out before Monster Hunter World, so it will be really interesting if that does experience success.
I definitely think this goes back to competition is fantastic. There doesn't have to be only one Monster Hunter because how is Monster Hunter going to strive to improve, right? I mean,
yeah.
If Dauntless comes out, it could easily be a stepping stone to get people into the series, right? Like I know I've had friends that don't want to play Monster Hunter because maybe it's daunting or like maybe
it is. It's a lot. It is a lot. And
do you guys ever play like PSP Monster Hunter?
No.
Oh, dude, that I remember playing that on like 8-hour car rides to hockey trips with my dad. He's sitting in the car on my PSP, staring at it for 8 hours straight, trying to just figure out the goddamn controls. Monster Hunter, man. It was just aiming your sword, so like you'd swing it like anything, even a fucking plant, and you try to aim that sword. You have to like turn your joystick all the way around, and like your camera's not facing that way. You just know you're hitting it. You have to like realize it.
The game also likes to hide a lot of mechanics behind, not hide, but it's like, oh, do you want to learn about how to like build armor and put jewels in your shit? You better go talk to the blacksmith and read his fucking novel that he's gonna write for you. Like, we're not gonna like send you out on a quest and be like in the middle of it, like, this is how you put a jewel on, so now you have fire resistance +1. It's like, no, you can keep getting burned alive by the fucking Raytheon, and you'll never know that you're supposed to put jewels in there unless you go online and Google, why the fuck do I keep dying to this shit?
Raytheon's too hard. Please help.
Look at us professionals. We still haven't made it to G rank, boys.
So that's the
Feels
the make or break for this game, right? Like the biggest issues they run into is penetrating the market because of the learning curve of it. So it'll be because obviously they put a lot of money behind this. Their marketing is through the roof. We're all aware of it. So whether or not it will succeed is whether or not they feel confident in that they've managed to design a way to get people past that initial learning curve.
So
just make the original Monster Hunter with a in-depth tutorial or some learning quests.
This kind of goes back to the whole people were complaining about westernization, because Monster Hunter has some dumb mechanics, right? Like there are some stupid things in there that you just have to kind of deal with and you kind of get used to, and it's part of that Monster Hunter charm-ish. But I know, for example, in Monster Hunter World, they're like taking out. I think you can kind of chug your health potion more akin to Dark Souls. And
you can move while you're drinking the health potion.
Because realistically, it's part of the Monster Hunter charm that your guy on the other
flexes.
Games,
it's hilarious, dude.
And then that's it. But there's definitely some things where it's like they could soften it a bit with keeping the Monster Hunter difficulty and the amount of monsters and the uniqueness to some of their kits, and deal away with some of the more rough things to get into. They don't.
So that's the thing, right? Like, there's so many things that people just kind of pass up. There's so many just inefficient things about that game.
We had ourselves a few technical difficulties there. Recordo James had an issue with his computer. He went to that blue screen. He decided to sign up a potato for the recording here on our first podcast. But anyways, getting back on topic, I think we were discussing Monster Hunter. And I think Matt had some issues that he was discussing about it that he might want to get back into.
I was just saying that in Monster Hunter and all Monster Hunters, there's so many weird game design decisions and kind of quirks. They're just it's kind of objectively bad game design in a lot of places. They're just passed off as Monster Hunter charm. And it's gonna be interesting how they deal and balance with those issues in Monster Hunter World.
I honestly think that is Monster Hunter charm. There's a lot of games that you look back on, or even new games like Dark Souls, right? There's a lot of things that they changed in the sequels, but there's also a lot of things that you kept. Some of the hard parts and some of the more oblong game design decisions are kind of what makes it interesting.
That's what makes a sequel is you have to change some things. You can't just keep it. You can't. All right, say you made Dark Souls 1, right? You just the first Dark Souls. You're like, okay, let's make Dark Souls 2 just Dark Souls 1 again with the same shit. There's literally nothing different except maybe a different area you go to. It's gonna make it sure it might still be good, but it's gonna make it feel flat. Just overall, just the same experience.
Keep it the exact same, right?
I was agreeing with you. I was saying that I was going your direction.
I'm just saying maybe you can file off some of the rough edges, but still don't file it down to boom. Nothing is weird in Monster Hunter World. You just pop a healing potion immediately and it takes instant effect. Don't go that casual with it. You know what I mean? But
well, what I think when you're talking about Monster Hunter charm, I guess, is not stuff like that, like the potion drinking, and now you have the scout flies have been a thing where it's just follow the monster, because it's there's some stuff where currently in Monster Hunter games you drop in especially at a higher rank, you don't even have a map. You just have to know what the maps are and what the different areas are, and this monster tends to appear in wetland areas, so we got to go where there's trees and shit. But there are other mechanics of the game, outside of the hunts that I think could definitely be trimmed down. And I think it's a function of Monster Hunter being produced by Capcom, a Japanese company. That Japanese companies just have this different outlook on game design and the way that their player base interacts with their games. You see this a lot with how frustrating Nintendo can be about some stupid shit. Apparently in Japan, there's a bigger community of gamers. It's not such an anomaly to just get 3 of your friends together and to be able to talk about you need to do this to figure out how to upgrade your Palico farm so that now you can have honey coming in all the time so you don't have to buy potions. That's a real thing that doesn't need to be that convoluted. But I'm worried
Right.
that you get like a developer like Capcom that's Japanese, that you see with a lot of Japanese developers, when their Western fans are like, hey, this is dumb, why is this in the game? Why do I need to look up on Kiriniko like how to get like a fucking, Raytheon helmet that I need to cut off the horn or whatever the fuck? Like the game should just tell me. I should have those databases inside the game. And Capcom will go, oh, well, the fans already made the website, why are we going to do double the work? And
Right.
that's just like off-putting to Western gamers. I think.
Well, I feel like that's a thing you can add to like any game with depth, any game that's harder. I don't see any downside for like the hardcore player base of just adding in some stuff that's going to make it easier for the new guys. Like there's no reason not to. It's not going to, as long as you don't take away from like what makes the game the game. There's no reason not to add some like some casual stuff in there that's going to just get you started.
I guess my concern is just like if Capcom will do what I've seen happen with other Japanese developers and just not give a shit about what anyone has to say outside of Japan. Like people are still being like, hey, remember that Not a Hero DLC for Resident Evil 7 that came out last year, and they said the DLC's on the way, and they're still like, oh well, it's on the way. They just kind of mentioned that like gold version, the thing that's coming out. And I say this as like a massive Resident Evil fan. I like a lot of Capcom games, but they do some shit that I'm not down with 100% of the time.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it's like, how do they implement like a way for them to kind of onboard players? Because if it's just walls of text, if it's just an in-game database or journal or whatever, people are just going to bounce off of that too. And they clearly are going to give a shit with this game because they are marketing it to Western audiences.
I mean, will people bounce off a journal? I think that's kind of cool. Like maybe the first time you hunt it, you don't get all the information about it, right? So if you want to know, hey, it's kind of common sense in a lot of things that like the horn of the Rathian, you need to, guess what, cut off the horn or whatever. But like, I think it'd be cooler that like the more you fight a monster, the more knowledge maybe you gain about it. And it's like, hey, there's this really rare thing that you can get, but you have to, cut off the tail or whatever.
Yeah. Well, there's kind of.
At that point, it's kind of a UI thing where it's like, are they presenting it in a UI fashion that
exactly.
How are they able to communicate that to players?
Yeah, because there's kind of that function is already in Monster Hunter of like learning about the monster, but like maybe you guys don't even know that like you can go to the like item store in Monster Hunter and you can buy those fucking books. Yeah. And then, but you're literally buying a book, and it's like read the whole book to find out that the Raytheon has a poison tail, And it's like, if you're not like, they don't tell you why you should buy the book. They're just like, hey, the book's in the store now. And it's like, well, why would I do that,
Well, yeah, they should at least, like, I like the idea of actually having to buy a book in game, read the lore. It makes it feel more immersive. But I think the direction you're going in, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's better just to give that incentive to know why you get the books rather than just it being in a fucking fourth page on an item vendor that you never see until like 30 hours in. You're like, oh shit,
just me personally, like in game design across the board, I don't like to read too much. Like you shouldn't, they shouldn't have to tell you like, push A to swing your sword. You should just pick up the controller and be like, I wonder what this button does. And you push A and it swings the sword. And you're like, okay, A swings the sword,
Right. Yeah. Nobody likes those tutorials where it's like, okay, this is shit that I could figure out on my own.
I think what they could do is, maybe I don't know about buying the books in game. I mean, they could do that, but like, just maybe your character just keeps a journal and like on one page, it's all this lore and stuff for the people that like that about the monsters. They want to learn about it. And then on the other, it's just like, bam, bullet points. It's like, cut off this for an item, cut off that for an item, and like stuff like that. The more you hunt a monster, the more kind of stuff.
Yeah, that is like that solution that you just given is a more intuitive way to do it than go to the store and buy the book by chance and go through it and figure it out. Like even if they just gave you the book, like so you don't have to buy it, because then you go to the store and you see like a 300 like coin book and you don't know what it does, or you could buy 5 health potions with that money. And you're like, well, I'm gonna buy 5 health potions. Like.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately the challenge of the game is making something that's intuitive and accessible but still retain the depth, which is always a hard thing for games to do. So it'll be interesting to see it when it comes out.
So it definitely looks like we all agree there on that point. That just keep the depth, but make it more
I
into.
just want to say, I think I've been kind of negative. I have extremely high hopes. I think I'm gonna love this game.
Me too.
Oh yes, it's gonna be fantastic, man.
I'm excited to really get into Monster Hunter for the first time in a long time.
Yeah,
And I think a lot of people are going to feel that same way.
Oh,
You can
yeah.
finally get into something with great graphics to look at. It's the
Yeah.
same
It
game, but
looks
it's like got
so
all
good.
the
It's-
The
polish.
hype is real.
Mhm.
I cannot wait to get off that shitty 2DS screen. That hurts my eyes. We're playing Monster Hunter for 8 hours. We're all sitting there in a room. I remember Monster Hunter 3, we'd all have to get together. We're like sitting around on a couch with our little 2DSs, like just fucking around just so we can't figure it out. And like afterwards, our eyes are all just like red. And
Yeah.
I can't wait to be on my own computer on Discord with the boys, just playing a little Monster Hunter on some great graphics.
Mhm.
Hunting monsters at 50-inch screens, baby.
60
Yeah.
FPS, dude. They said the PC release is coming out like slightly afterward, and that because they want to focus on it. So I'm looking forward to that. 60 FPS, 144 FPS.
Oh man,
Bruh.
144,
Ian, I know
that'd
you're
be-
excited for that T-Grex.
dude. Oh my god, if there's a T-Rex in the game, I'm not buying it. I'm swearing.
Why don't you like that T-Grex, man?
Dude, I'm telling you, because here's the problem. All right, Monster Hunter combat is slow, right? And that's all fine and good. I feel like that's part of the charm of Monster Hunter. The T-Rex, you know what it says? It says fuck that. Fuck the slow combat. Every swing you make is getting punished, and it's happening, and you're gonna get run over 50 times by a T-Rex, and you're gonna just throw your 3DS across the room. It's a dumb monster.
I'll never forget the Brachiodos, how me and Scotty like 18 times in a row. We just kept trying, and I think we had to get all of us together to actually beat the Brachiodos.
Guy's a bastard.
We did it. But we had to beat it 4 times, and it was like
It's a crazy fight, man. Just
That
like
shit's crazy. And we didn't even get to the real shit where it's
No.
like, oh, you think a T-Rex is hard? Wait till you get him down to half health, and then he calls his Devil Joe buddy to come and take a shit on
we've
your
never.
life.
I heard like there's like a molten T-Rex or whatever in G rank or some crap.
Mhm.
But it's just like, God, like if I was having that much trouble in like a high rank T-Rex, G rank where you get like 3 hit, jeez, man, I don't know.
boys thinking what I'm thinking right now.
What you thinking?
What are you thinking?
Oh, let's go play some Monster Hunter.
Dude, I
Let's
am
go
down.
play. I am feeling it.
I'm feeling it too, actually.
Let's
I
do
think I
it.
switch it up. I
Alright.
tried playing the fucking bow. It's not for me, dude.
Mhm.
I'm loving the great sword. I'm gonna stick with it and try and actually get good with it. I just want to stick with one weapon finally. I started out with the long sword. It's time to move on.
All right.
But yeah, boys, I mean, great talk today. That's it for today with the Casually Toxic podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you want, you can hit us up on Twitter at Casually Toxic, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. And thanks again for listening.
Hey, first pod complete.
We did it.